instead of taking responsibility, instead of telling us, listen, coalition partners, this is what you should do differently, Mr. Mashaba is coming up with an after-the-fact explanation for his own deceitful conduct. Let's just be very clear. None of this have got anything to do, what Action SA has done, have got anything to do with the people of Tshwane. The one thing that Mr. Mashaba's letters and his BS excuses, quite frankly, don't offer is a point of what we could have done differently. Because he doesn't care. This is about national political calculations. He doesn't even have a plan for the future of the city of Tshwane. It's clear that Mr. Mashaba slumbered through that election. He was almost completely absent. And then when he woke up to a terrible result, the only thing he could remember was how angry he was at the DA. He blamed the multi-party charter for his poor performance. He decided not to go into a government of national unity. And now he figures that if...
Mayor, are you comfortable with the current financial position of the Metro?
When I was elected 18 months ago, I made it clear that the financial recovery of Tshwane was absolutely key to achieving all of our other objectives. The city had gone through a number of shocks due to political instability, due to a poor management culture. Those shocks did a great deal of damage. And I made it clear that unless we fix the finances and make significant progress in the short term, we can't hope to improve service delivery infrastructure and the lived experience of Tshwane residents. At that time, Action SA had been part of Tshwane's government for a year and a half. I resigned my seat in Parliament, I became the coalition candidate, and we set out making deliberate decisions, which we then executed, often in the face of quite significant opposition, to fix the finances. We decided to forgo salary increases for councillors and officials, a critical decision, unleashed a strike. We built a project management office for each aspect of the revenue value chain. We took what the Auditor General had found point for point and started addressing those issues. And the results are significantly improved financial sustainability for the city, not just according to us, but according to Ratings Africa, the best improvement of all the metros on the scale of financial sustainability. We received an improved audit outcome by looking at each of the findings. We have made in the past 2 months $1 billion more. We've collected $1 billion more for the past 2 months compared to last year, exactly because we've put in the efforts to fix things so that we can pay off our Eskom debt and so that we can start making significant progress. Now let's get to Action SA. If you're a grown-up political party, you're signed up to a coalition agreement, it's your responsibility to make a contribution to the successes. Such a party doesn't take credit for what goes right, as Action SA has done, and blames its partners for what goes wrong.
No, but in that letter, they actually conceded that they've been part of the failures.
Yeah, well, that's fine. The letter came after 100 other excuses, which also don't have credibility. And the key question is, here's the key question.
Letter, it was them now conceding.
No, forget about the letter. Let's look at what does a party in government do if it's got a serious policy issue. It raises that policy issue internally. It says, Mr. Mayor, unless you change this policy, unless you abandon this, unless you stop doing this, it will put the coalition at risk. Action SA did none of those things. They did none of those things. They've got significant power sharing. They've got a deputy mayorship. They're in control of portfolios of economic development, social development. They're MMCs of oversight in key northern townships of the city. And at no point did they say that this government should go in a different direction. In fact, I'm on record that I've got an excellent working relationship. When I'm being attacked, it's not by the Action SA MMCs in my government. By the way, they're still there. They haven't resigned. I'm being attacked by a national leader of Action SA who pulled the trigger, made the decision, and then after the fact, he comes with big letters and excuses and all sorts of incredible ex post facto explanations.
But can we deny the reality, the lived reality of perhaps those of Soshanguve and Mamelodi, that if you've got your expansion project when it comes to whether it be electricity in those areas, is this something that you can deny?
So let's talk about the progress we've made in the past 18 months. We now have a credible plan in place to get clean water in the taps of people of Hammanskraal, a decades-long problem, which previous administrations couldn't solve. We can't take sole credit for it. We've taken hands with national government in order to achieve it. We're taking action against the service providers and the officials that were involved in irregularities there before. Let's look at the Townlands social housing development, where the beneficiaries, 1,200 households, come from the poorest parts of the city of Tshwane. Rent control, or rent-assisted living, close to places of work, close to places of business opportunities, completed by this government, again, in partnership with national government, but it's a year-long, it is a decades-long project that we finally completed. It shows that we care about social mobility. I can refer to the JJ substation in Tshwane. You mentioned Tshwane.
The electricity issues there.
To stabilize that electricity supply after years and years of assaults, cable theft and vandalism, we now have the prospect, if that JJ line is completed, it will stabilize the electricity. Now let's be clear, and I want to take it back to the finances. As I said at the outset, our priority was restore the finances so that we can pay off our debt, settle Eskom debt, so that we can have access to savings and borrowings to build infrastructure. So we must do a great deal more.
But the liquidity ratio now at 0.6 means
better.
You cannot meet your short-term liabilities.
Sorry, the liquidity ratio is better. It has in fact improved. So instead of taking responsibility, instead of telling us, listen, coalition partners, this is what you should do differently, Mr. Mashaba is coming up with an after-the-fact explanation for his own deceitful conduct. Let's just be very clear. None of this have got anything to do, what Action SA has done, have got anything to do with the people of Tshwane.
But they laid bare the issues of Tshwane nevertheless.
You can lay bare if you're a political analyst or a commentator. What you do if you're a partner in a coalition government is you make a contribution.
But
you don't blame your partners for the failures.
Because it seems as though, because I've spoken to you before, that you're of the view that the decision taken by Action SA is for their own political gain. That may be the case, perhaps. We don't know what the real intentions are. That is for them. But nevertheless, can we deny the reality that they've laid bare? That if you have a liquidity issue, if you have an Eskom's debt right now at 6.83 billion, if you have still the issues of the electricity in Soshanguve, the water issues in Mamelodi, and a number of people, the disparities, because there have been allegations that when it comes to service delivery, those perhaps in the townships are not benefiting all that much.
So
there have been refuse issues as well.
I don't want to rehash.
There have been salary issues.
I don't want to rehash what I've just told you about Hammanskraal water, about Townlands, about energy projects in Soshanguve. I don't want to rehash those things. I think that has clearly been answered. But what I do need to point to is that on every score, including the current ratio, the city of Tshwane is doing better. Exactly because we're making the tough decisions.
But is better enough?
We're not blaming.
If I
can just finish the answer.
All right.
We're not blaming our coalition partners. We are taking responsibility for improving the position. Are we doing enough? Well, the one thing that Mr. Mashaba's letters and his BS excuses, quite frankly, don't offer is a point of what we could have done differently. Because he doesn't care. This is about national political calculations. He doesn't even have a plan for the future of the city of Tshwane.
It's about national political calculations.
Yes, it's about national.
Can you expand on that?
Well, I think Action SA did exceptionally poorly in the general election. It's clear that Mr. Mashaba slumbered through that election. He was almost completely absent. And then when he woke up to a terrible result, the only thing he could remember was how angry he was at the DA. He blamed the multi-party charter for his poor performance. He decided not to go into a government of national unity. And now he figures that if the Tshwane coalition succeeds, if we bring clean water to the people of Hammanskraal, if we improve the finances, if we gradually improve the lived experience of the people of Tshwane, as is our project, then the people won't credit Action SA with those achievements. And so he has to reposition himself. The unfortunate thing is that his only coalition calculation for Tshwane is one in which the EFF will play a role of balance of power.
But what
and
has
they
been
will have
your
a
role?
toxic influence in the future of Tshwane. So it's easy to bring a motion of no confidence and topple a government. The question is, what is your plan to do things better?
And that is a question we'll pose to the African National Congress because they come just after you.